This episode is brought to you by my signature group coaching program, Thrive From Stack to Unstoppable. Thrive From Stack to Unstoppable is a most comprehensive program for overcoming limiting beliefs so you can confidently take charge of your life and career. This newly updated program is the only step-by-step approach that holistically assesses your level of fulfillment and satisfaction in the key areas of your life. This is going to help you foster a bulletproof mindset so you can have clarity, let go of fear, and those memorized patterns that are keeping you stuck from being the person that you are created to be, so you can be your most authentic self and build the confidence you need to succeed in your life and career. So to sign up for the next cohort of this group coaching program, all you need to do is go to www.wamboimboro.com/thrive, and that is www.wamboimburu.com/thrive. I can't wait to see you in class.
It's almost like this rift in our psyche, right? And this comes really back to the authenticity piece. It's like there's this thing that I'm showing on the outside that's somehow incongruent with what's on the inside, and somebody's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that is very obviously like very threatening and very scary. Like, am I going to get exposed for not knowing enough, for not being as far along as maybe I claim, or not being the expert that I say that I am, or whatever it is? It's like we all have those self-doubts. And some are real, right? So like when I'm working with a client and they're presenting themselves one way online and I'm getting to see behind the curtain, and it's
Yes.
a very different reality. Well, we've got to slow down and say, what about this? Like, how does that feel inside of you? Number one, because my guess is it's creating a lot of panic and shame inside. And so
Yes.
it's like, how do we bring those two things closer together?
Hi, I am Wamboimboro, a corporate girl who also has multiple passions. When I'm not at my 9 to 5, I spend time focusing on growing my small side business that I love. I created From Stack to Unstoppable podcast to give you simple, actionable strategies to help you get unstuck from limiting beliefs and find your purpose. If you're a professional, a 9 to 5er, or an aspiring entrepreneur and are looking to get out of your comfort zone, use your God-given talents and passion, you, my friend, are in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of From Stack to Unstoppable podcast. I am your host, Wamboimboro. Today, I'm excited to have on the show someone that I really admire. Her name is Mary Hyatt. Mary is a life and business consultant, and she works with high achievers. She's worked with some of the top C-suite executives and entrepreneurs who sometimes struggle with burnout. So she helps them connect back to the paths that come alive so that their lives are not just about achieving. In this episode, we talk about how her holistic approach can help us connect with not only our mind and mindset, but with the other parts of our bodies, which are the physical, the emotion, the energetic, so that we can connect with the real authentic of who we truly are. I have attended one of Mary's retreat, and it was so transformational. It really changed my mindset. And so I'm really excited with what she's going to share today. I felt like I was in a coaching session with her. So let's get to it. Hi there, Mary. Thank you so much for being on my show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and excited for our conversation today.
I'm excited too. I'm really excited. So please tell my listeners who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So I am a life coach and business consultant, and I work with, I would say primarily 95% women who are high achievers, who love creating amazing lives, but who sometimes struggle with the work-life balance, and really help them develop a plan for connecting back into the parts that make them really come alive so that their life isn't just about achieving and staying in those cycles of burnout where they go, 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 and they end up exhausted and overwhelmed and worn out. And together we work on helping them reconnect to their bodies, to reconnect to their emotions. And I really offer a very holistic approach. So I'm looking not only at mind and the mindset, I'm looking at our relationship with our body, our relationships to energy, our relationships to um, our emotions, and really helping women find margin, find white space, find the ability to connect with their passions, with their sense of pleasure, with their sense of joy again, and doing that in a way that feels really life-giving and full and expansive. And so I work with clients one-on-one. I have group coaching programs. I do all day intensives sometimes with clients. So it's really a beautiful mix of conscious, conscious growth, conscious evolvement.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, what led you to that path?
Well, I think this is probably honestly true for most people that are in some sort of helping profession, that our own journeys, our own stuff and our own need for healing ended up bringing us to the point where we kind of figured it out for ourselves, and so now we want to help other people do it. And my journey is really that. I mean, it's like my wounds have become my medicine. And so if you were to have met me like 15 years ago, you would have met a very, very different Mary.
Mhm.
Um, and I was in a place at that time in my life where I did not know who I was. And I was really lost and I was really miserable, honestly. I was living in a much larger body and I had gained a ton of weight from a lot of trauma that I had experienced in my life. And I was very disconnected from my body. In fact, I loathed my body. I hated her. I didn't even have full length mirrors in my house. Like that's how much I did not even want to look at myself.
Mm.
And I had a lot of autoimmune issues going on. I had extreme anxiety and depression, like really, really bad. Like couldn't get out of the house. Had to have my ex-husband like leave to go to the grocery store or go get food because I couldn't handle the anxiety of being in public and doing things by myself. And got to the point where it was just really, really bad. And this is in my 20s, when you're supposed to like, the world is your oyster, like everything should be
Yes.
great. And I mean, I was absolutely miserable. And so I can really clearly remember a moment of deciding that either I was going to take my own life or I was going to choose to fight for some belief that I had inside that there was more to life than what I was living. And thank God my future self made that choice to continue living and to continue fighting for light, for love. And so I sort of started down this what has become a lifelong journey of self-discovery and started reading as many books as I could get my hands on because I didn't know anything about the mind body connection. I didn't know anything about mindset work. I had no idea that our thoughts were so powerful. I had no idea that all of what was showing up in my body was a symptom to trauma and to really hard things in my life that I didn't know how to process. And it was getting stuffed in my body.
Mhm.
And that all of my behaviors, all of my self sabotage there was a really good reason why that was showing up. And so I got really curious and started doing the work and found so much healing through meditation and yoga and breath work and mindset work and awareness. And realize through this process, like, oh my gosh, this is so powerful. I want everybody to know just how much choice and agency and control we have to change our lives.
Right.
And I want to help people. And
Yes.
so it brought me to this whole path of becoming a coach. And so I had to walk myself through it first, but thank God I did because now I can give that gift and help other people do it.
Thank God you did, because yes, you can give it to us. And I've attended one of your workshops, which just blew my mind, because the way you do it, you have this focus on mind body connection, and also like a mind, how to help someone shift their mindset. And it really helped me because just for the goal setting workshop that we did, it wasn't about what you're going to achieve, it's about how you're going to feel.
Yeah.
You talked about how do you want to feel. And I'm curious if you can share with my audience how, because you do talk about the energy, how we are an energy. Please share about that and how can we even just, how can one connect with their emotions? I love listening to you because it blows my mind the way you talk about it and the way you do it.
Mm. Well,
Transformational.
thank you for that. And I loved having you that day at the workshop. It was so fun to get to know you. And it's so fun to see the light bulb go off for people when you go, oh my gosh, it's not about just arriving at some destination and achieving this goal and saying, okay, I've done the thing. It's like you may do that and you still might feel miserable. You
Yeah.
might achieve the thing and still feel inadequate. You might achieve the thing and still feel like something's missing. And so if we're just pursuing achieving things, it's really, in my experience, going to leave us still feeling empty. And then it's like we are on that hamster wheel of, okay, now what's the next thing we have to achieve? Now what's the next thing? And we never actually get the thing that we want, which is some sort of sense of we've made it. We feel better about ourselves. We feel like we're more worthy. We're more like we're enough. Like we have all this weight that we put on what we achieve, and then we achieve it and it's the reward isn't there. So I like to look at the emotional ROI. Like, what is it that we are really after? Like, if I make more money, what is it that I'm hoping more money will change in my life or how it will make me feel?
Right.
And for money, most people are like, oh, I want to feel secure. If I
Mhm.
made more money, I would feel secure, or I would feel free. I would
Yes.
feel a sense of freedom. And so it's like, okay, great. So you're not really after the money. You just think that money will get you that sense of security, will get you that sense of freedom.
Yeah.
And we can start looking at the feeling that you're after. How can you experience that now? How
Wow.
can you generate that right now without having anything in your life change? Like, could you feel more free? Could you feel more alive? Could you feel more safe? Could you feel more secure right now?
Okay.
And that's an amazing byproduct of using our minds
Mhm.
to shift our focus and play up emotions. And emotions are amazing. Like energy is amazing. So one of the things that you've probably heard me teach before, but is that we have 4 bodies. So
Yes.
hang with me for a second because I think this is it's helpful to put it in a framework
Mhm.
because we have a mental body. And
Okay.
so that's going to be our thoughts, the sentences in our head, the narrative, the meaning, the interpretation we give things. And most people are focused only on the mental, our
Mhm.
knowledge, analyzing, logic, all of that. But if we only focus on our mind, we miss out on so much wisdom that is available like below the head, below the shoulders in the body. And that's where the 3 other bodies come in. We have our physical body.
Okay.
So that's our bones, our blood, our organs, all of that. And then we have our emotional body, how
Okay.
we feel,
Yeah.
right? So in any given moment, I can experience a state of feeling. And then we have our energetic body.
Okay.
And that is like, you know, this when you walk in a room and you feel the vibe.
Mhm.
That's energy. You
Yes.
can connect with somebody just energetically, and you're like, wow, this is such an amazing connection. Or, wow, this is something is off here. I can't quite put my finger on it, but the energy is off. And we
Exactly.
have energetic capacity.
Mhm.
Like, I have the energy for this, or I don't have the energy for this.
Okay.
So, when we are creating goals or when we're thinking about anything that we want to do in life, we want to consider all of those bodies.
The
We
core
want to look
body.
at the
Mhm.
4 bodies. Yeah, the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the energetic.
Mhm.
And really attend to all of those because how we feel
Mhm.
is the quality of life we experience.
Oh, I like
Like,
how we feel is the quality of life we experience. So true. Okay.
yeah, because if you think about it, like your circumstances, like I could live in a huge, amazing house that's my dream house and be depressed, feel
Yes.
miserable, feel like the loneliest person in the world. Or I could live in my dream home and feel wildly fulfilled, feel just expansive, feel alive, feel turned on for life. And nothing about the external circumstance has to change to shift how I feel about something or shift the state that I live in. And so that's where we really get to exercise our power
Okay.
of how do I want to experience life? What is the emotional state that I want to be practicing as often as I can and become really good at practicing that emotional state that it becomes my everyday, it becomes my norm, it becomes my emotional home. But we have to start really identifying what emotions are important to me. What do I value? Like, what do I really want to feel? And then I can start sort of designing everything around feeling that feeling more often.
That's beautiful. So how do I want to feel and then organize all the rest of your life according to how you want to feel? Because it's important how you feel.
Yeah.
How you-
It's so important. And what's crazy about it is I think everybody assumes that we all want the same feeling.
Yes.
And it's not true. Like, I've done these workshops enough to know that, like, how people wanna feel is so unique to them.
Mhm.
What feelings matter, what they value is so different person to person, and so
Yes.
the recipe to get there is gonna be really unique and different person to person. So, not just assuming like, "Oh, yeah, everybody wants to be happy," but
Right.
how can we get even more nuanced than happiness? And you're gonna go, "Okay, well, what does happiness feel like? What does happiness feel like in the body? If you could use another word to describe happiness, how might you express your version of happy?" And that could be everything from um, something that feels really almost like living on the edge,
Mhm.
like adventurous, like somebody who really likes trying new things and visiting new places versus somebody's version of happiness might be really peaceful,
Yes.
quiet, content. Like those are two very different definitions. So the avenues to get there are going to obviously look completely different, but identifying, okay, what is your happy? What is your version of that? Um, and getting as clear as possible so that you can help yourself get there.
That's beautiful. It's good to know, yeah, the uniqueness that everybody's different and how their happy is different. That's I never looked at it that way. I thought we all want to be happy. Obviously, we
Right.
want to be happy, but the path is very different for each one of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
exactly.
Awesome. Now you have a podcast, Living
Yeah.
Fully Alive. Is that yeah? Living
Yeah.
Fully.
Yep.
Please talk a little bit about your podcast. And I know you do talk about topics like personal development and obviously like energy and that body mind connection. Tell us a little bit about more the topics that you talk about and why you even started it.
So when I was thinking about what I wanted to name the podcast, Living Fully Alive, and I was really getting in on the branding for my business, that
Mhm.
phrase kept sticking out to me. And I thought when I started this journey, living fully alive meant that everything was going to be shiny and perfect and happy and positive, and that it was like, live your best, biggest, brightest self, And obviously that sounds great on paper, and that's what a lot of coaches preach and teach.
Mhm.
And so I was like, "Oh, fully alive. I want to be fully alive." And then as I have gone on this journey, the longer I've been doing this work and working with clients, I have realized that living fully alive, this human experience that we are all having is far from perfect,
Yes.
and it's really messy and it's really hard
Yeah.
and it's really challenging, and this is the thing that, like, when all we focus on is positive psychology, I think it really does us a disservice because it discounts and starts to create some shame around when we feel sad, when we feel lonely, when we feel, um, scared, when
Mhm.
we're experiencing grief, when we're in seasons of life where our parents are dying or somebody in our life is sick or we have financial issues or whatever it is that is life.
Yes.
It's like, where do we put that? Because
Mhm.
if we have compartmentalized and then said, like, okay, all that's bad,
Yeah.
and there must be something wrong with my thinking, and there must be something wrong with me that I can't get to the place of being happy again. And so we don't know what to do with that. And so we will very frequently judge ourselves and start blaming ourselves and feeling like we're even more broken than we realized. And we've got to do all this fixing or jump through all these hoops and think the right thoughts and manifest the right things. And it's like, oh no, it just can get really overwhelming. And yet that is being fully alive.
Mm.
It is the light with the dark.
The light
It
with the,
is, yeah, it's the sun with the shadow.
yes.
And so the podcast really explores all of that. It's like, how do we walk through and make space for our hard emotions? How do we meet ourselves with compassion, with tenderness, giving validation to all of our experience, the
Mm-hmm.
hard, the messy, the confused, um the parts of us that are feel disappointed or we like, oh, I don't know how to move forward. I feel completely stuck. Like, can I love that version of myself too? Can I make space for her as well? And
Right.
so the podcast is really exploring all the nuance of that, from learning how to feel emotions to um, how do we come more in alignment with who we truly are? What does it look like to live out of our real authentic selves, as opposed to always trying to wear the masks and earn love and learn approval. And so it's a whole journey of self-discovery, and it's deep conversations around our relationships with ourselves and with our bodies and with our emotions, and with other people in our lives.
That's beautiful that you bring authenticity into it, because I know you talk about a lot about authenticity. How does one cultivate that, being authentic and be fulfilled? How can one cultivate authenticity with all the social media and everything else that we all, see and are being thrown into? How does one live to have just that fulfillment and be authentic?
I wish I had a one like quick answer for you, but I think it's really a lifelong journey,
Yes.
because we're always tempted to tap dance, to perform,
Mhm.
to shapeshift, and whatever that looks like, in order that we get approval, that we get love, that we're accepted, that we have a sense of belonging. And that need inside of ourselves as humans is so important, that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And it's primal, right? Like, if you think about, if you were to rewind and go back to when we were all tribal people,
Mhm.
if you were outside of the tribe, then that meant death.
Yeah. Yeah. You're an outcast.
You're an
Yeah.
outcast. It's like the most vulnerable position you could be in, and it threatens your very life. So we still house that inside of our DNA memory.
Okay.
And so we will pretty much do anything as a people to be accepted and be in the tribe, so to speak.
Right.
And so that's where we start putting on all these masks, and we learn really, really early on how we need to behave, how we need to show up in order to receive love,
Yeah.
or at least not experience pain, like to stay safe. So we all sort of develop these compensating personalities that help us get this basic fundamental human need: love, belonging. And so part of, I think, our work as adults is deconstructing that and
Mhm.
deconditioning that to go, okay, yes, I've done this for my whole life and I've shown up this way. And even a huge part of my identity, my personality is this facade, this mask. Is that really me? So if we're in a journey into authenticity, we have to, in a way, start questioning our literal personalities. It's like
Yeah.
the Enneagram. Like, what parts of the Enneagram or anything did I develop as a mechanism to earn love? Like, I'm an Enneagram too.
Okay.
So I learned early on, be helpful. If you give somebody something that they need,
Okay.
then they will in return give you love,
Oh, okay.
because they need you. They need you around, so that so you have it's like a transaction. So I've
Mhm.
learned, be helpful, show up for people, be the best friend, be this amazing person, like help people as a kid, help them do their homework, like help the teachers do whatever. And then they want you because they need you. So it's I have this thing I can sell
Yes.
that then ends up becoming my personality. And so I have to really slow down and say, who am I really? Like, who am I at my core? When I was like a little baby, before I could do any of that shape shifting, who
Mm-hmm.
was I really? And so we have to first learn who we are. If we're going to show up authentically, most people, in my experience, don't know who they really are. They know how to behave to get love or
Mm-hmm.
how to behave to not get hurt. And so it's a deconditioning first and foremost. And then it really is, how can I set up my life to be in integrity
Okay.
with who I really am? And that's a set of little choices every day. Like, I know for me, one small thing is I will never use a filter on Instagram.
Okay.
When I do my stories, when I do a reel, when I do anything, like, because for me before, I believed I had to look a certain way in order to be loved. And
Yes.
so I'm like, no, 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 no. I want to challenge that. What's a way I can challenge that? I'm going to show up as me. I'm going to show a recent picture of myself on the regular. Like, this is me. I'm going to show up without makeup. I'm going to show up, sweaty and gross from working out, whatever it is. Like, I'm going to give myself permission to be seen as me.
Yes.
So it's a lot of like little ways that we start to use our voice to come into alignment with the truth of what we know versus pretending or pleasing or perfecting our way through life. That's a long answer to a short
It's a
question, but
very
it's
good answer.
complex.
It's a very good answer because I had not even looked at it that way. Just that one simple thing of saying, I'm going to show up. I'm going to remember who was I before when I was that little baby, who was I? And then even just saying that I'm going to show up the way I am, my true self, with no makeup, nothing. After my going for a run, I'll just do my reel or whatever. So that's a really good way of thinking because then you don't have to present yourself as this other person who you don't even know who they are yourself. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way of saying it. Now, let's
Mhm.
talk about imposter syndrome. A lot of
Yes.
people that I deal with, work with, and even myself, I've dealt with imposter syndrome. And I know you've had this beautiful journey where you moved from self-doubt to self-confidence. How did you what strategies did you use to help you with that those limiting beliefs?
Yeah. I think imposter syndrome is 100% so common. And that feeling in the body is so interesting, isn't it? Because it's like, my experience is there's shame there.
Mhm.
Like, people think I'm one thing, but if they really knew who I really was, they'd find out that I'm not these things. And it's almost like this rift in our psyche, right? And this comes really back to the authenticity piece. It's like there's this thing that I'm showing on the outside that's somehow incongruent with what's on the inside, and
Mhm.
somebody's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that is very obviously like very threatening and very scary. Like, am I going to get exposed for not knowing enough? For not being as far along as maybe I claim, or not being the expert that I say that I am, or whatever it is. It's like we all have those self-doubts. And some are real, right? So like, if like when I'm working with a client and they're presenting themselves one way online and I'm getting to see behind the curtain and it's
Yes.
a very different reality. Well, we've got to slow down and say, what about this? Like, how does that feel inside of you? Number 1, because my guess is it's creating a lot of panic and shame inside. And so
Yes.
it's like, how do we bring those 2 things closer together?
Okay.
Because I wanna think about self-integrity. Like, if the opposite of imposter syndrome would be self-integrity.
Right.
Like, what you see is what you get. I am who I am. I show up the same way online than I do in my house. Um, I don't, make claims that aren't true. Like, my word is truth. I'm integrous with what myself. I don't try to pretend. And when we have permission to really show up in the truth of where we are, especially when it's messy and hard, then we don't usually have that imposter syndrome. And it's a lot of remembering our worth.
Right.
Right? Remembering that we are lovable just because we breathe, and that no matter what we do in our life, how we achieve things, what we achieve, what we don't achieve, it's like it's all arbitrary anyways. Our, definitions of success don't mean anything. We've just made them important because we've chosen to make certain measurable things the mark of success. It's like, well, who says,
Yeah, right.
at the end of the day?
Right.
So it's kind of interesting, but I think for me, part of this journey has been recognizing that that voice of doubt is not my soul's voice.
Okay.
And that doubt is really a version of myself that is afraid of not being loved. And it really, when you peel it all the way back, all the layers back, it's like there's this core belief often that we're not enough.
Mhm.
And so when I see that self doubt come in and I start feeling like an imposter, part of what I do now is just to really slow down and say, whose voice is that?
Oh,
Wait a
good.
second.
Whose
Right?
voice is that? Because it's not my voice. Okay.
Right. Whose voice is that? And I really want to be tender when I ask that, not like, shut up. I can't believe my thoughts are thinking that. It's like, no, like I want to get curious because what I know is whoever's voice is that is a version of myself that's probably scared,
Yes.
feeling really vulnerable, feeling, afraid of being exposed, rejected, abandoned, whatever. So it's oftentimes a little version of ourselves. Sometimes it can be the voice of a parent or a caregiver or a boss or somebody else in authority. And so when I can look at it and kind of get outside of, oh, that's me, and
Mhm.
create a little bit of distance to where now I'm observing this voice, this dialogue of I'm not good enough. And I can get curious about that voice. And once I do, I can help to meet that fear with love. Like, "Oh, I hear you. I hear that you don't feel like you're good enough. I hear that you feel like, you're afraid somebody's not gonna, give you something, see you
Mhm.
as something, whatever. I love you." Like, remind that part of ourselves how lovable they are and return to our soul's voice or return to truth or our higher self. However, there's a lot of different phrases for this, but um it's like that voice that is we experience it as total truth inside of ourselves. Like, I want to remember the truth of who I am.
Mhm.
And I let that soul's voice come forward that says, you don't have to earn love. You can't even lose it. Like, it's yours by birthright. Just by being alive, you are loved. You don't have to do anything. You are enough right here, right now. If, nobody signs up for your program, if nobody reads your book, if nobody respects your voice, you are lovable. And that, like, I wanna continue to return to the truth of that because that's my real self. That's my real voice. And so it's identifying, like, whose voice is that really? Can I meet that with validation, tenderness, soothing, nurturing, and then return to the truth
Wow.
of my soul's voice?
Oh, this is a whole coaching session here. This
Oh, I
is
love
a
it.
whole coaching session. Oh my goodness. Wow. So it's the awareness, the questioning. Who is that? Who's that? Whose voice is that? And then that self-compassion.
Yeah.
Wow, Mary, this is beautiful, beautiful. Ooh, I could talk to you all day, but I was like, oh wow, this is really gonna help my listeners because it's really a coaching session we are having here.
Mm.
Okay, so procrastination. Let's talk about. I deal with again my clients who they want to start something, they want to do something, but they are procrastinate. They procrastinate again, and I guess it's really not believing in themselves. What can they do to make themselves just go out there? Not make themselves, but what can they do? What strategies can you give when it comes to when someone wants to start something, but they're still pulling themselves back and don't want to take that step?
Yeah. I mean, we've all been there, right? Like, we've all had those experiences, myself included. Procrastination is it can either be a form of wisdom
Mhm.
or it can be a form of protection. And I think that we need to understand which it is because if it's wisdom, Procrastination is saying you're out of alignment. It's like let's say we set this goal that feels or like it doesn't feel. It looks really good on paper.
Yes.
I want to achieve this thing and it sounds great. And then you find yourself procrastinating and you're like, but like this should be the thing that I want. This is what everybody says should be the next step. And there's this sense of it doesn't even really belong to you
Mhm.
because it's a should.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel good. And there's a part of you that is a higher level of wisdom that's picking up on this is out of alignment. This is
Okay.
not meant for me. Even though it's like, imagine being married, going to get married to somebody who literally like hits all the boxes. It's like perfect on paper. Like everybody would assume you guys would get married. Everything looks great. And
Right.
then there's something inside of your soul that's like, this is not right. I can't even put my finger on it. I
Mhm.
can't explain it logically. It makes no sense rationally, but I know it's not right for me. And so you drag your feet. You don't go pick out your wedding dress. You're kind of like subtly self sabotaging.
Yes.
That is wisdom. So that level of procrastination is wisdom.
Okay.
We want to listen to that. The other is protection,
Okay.
meaning it's trying to keep us safe in our comfort zone in what is familiar to us.
Okay.
And so when we think about it could be like literally the same goal we're talking about. But if it's
Mhm.
from protection, it's like when we procrastinate, it's like I'm scared to expand because that feels really vulnerable. And I'm not sure that God or the universe or my higher power is going to show up for me. And I I can't bet on myself. I certainly don't want to bet on a higher power. And so I'm just going to stay right here and stay safe because at least this is the hell that I know.
Okay.
Right? At least like this is something that I can predict, I
Yes.
can control. Even if I'm miserable,
You're right.
at least I know this misery. At least I know what this is like.
Yeah.
So, depending on which type of procrastination or where this is stemming from, we can go different routes with it. Because if it's for protection, and this is a lot of the work that I do with my clients, is reintroducing safety, nervous system safety as we are expanding. So, how can I, instead of feeling like I've got to take 10 steps to achieve this thing, what is a baby step that I can take, a 1% shift towards the direction of my goal?
Okay.
Something that still feels maybe a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but not so much that I start to shut down. So it's just like I'm practicing stretching a little bit. And then as I get comfortable with that, I can stretch a little bit more and then a little bit more and then a little bit more. And I think what most of us try to do is make it all or nothing,
Oh, 10 or nothing.
10 or a nothing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is going to set you up. Like if you think you always have to go 100% or do the 10, the level 10, like you're going to procrastinate because it's too far. It's
Mhm.
such a huge commitment. It's too much of a stretch. It's too much of a risk that it's easier to just do nothing. So
Mhm.
my thing is like, what's the 1% change that I can make? Like, or instead of working out 5 times a week or 7 times a week, can I start with 1 time a week?
Okay.
Can I start with 2 times a week? Like make it to where I can create an easy success for myself, an
Right.
easy win for myself to build off of that momentum versus it needing to be total perfection, all or nothing at level 10. And I drag my feet or I do it for 2 weeks and then I give up. It's
Mm.
like, I want something that feels doable, sustainable, still a level of safety within my nervous system. And it really feels right and aligned and true for me versus sounding good on paper.
And that's good. Even you just saying it, just 1%. I can feel it in my body, just the ease. Okay, yeah, 1% is doable, but the 100, oh my goodness, it's like, okay, I don't think this is doable. It's just too much, even just
It's
for
too
the
much.
body to hold. That's a good way of looking at it, and I hope it's gonna help my listeners.
Yeah.
Mary, you do a lot of work with. I know you coach, you do the workshops. Please tell my listeners where they can find you because I would love to talk to you all day, but I want
Yes.
to be mindful of your time. Where can my listeners find you?
Absolutely. And I love this conversation. Thank you for having me. I do offer one-to-one coaching. I offer group coaching programs. I have retreats. And I'm very active on Instagram, but you can find all of that information at maryhyatt.com. Just going to my website, you'll see my social links and my offerings, and you can apply to coach with me or explore that option. So maryhyatt.com.
Beautiful. Now, when is your next retreat? Because I want to see if I can make a way to join.
I wish I could give you exact dates. I'm actually meeting with my co-host for the next retreat. It'll always be in the fall. So I do one big retreat called the Align Retreat. It's my signature retreat, and it's usually the end of September, beginning of October is typically when it has been. So I don't have firm dates as of yet, but will in the next couple weeks. So if you keep going back to my website, once that's announced, you'll see it, but it will definitely be in the fall. And that is such a beautiful retreat. It's 4 days. We really get into the idea of alignment and sharing space with other women that are doing this deep work. There's something so magical that happens when we come together and we focus in on slowing down and resting and retreating and just nourishing our bodies and our hearts. It's beautiful. And I would love to have you, like genuinely love to have you be there. So I'll let you know when the dates show up. But if anyone else is curious, you can always go back to my website to look.
Yeah, let me know. I know it's even for the workshop that I came for, it was 2 days and it
Yeah.
was, oh my goodness, the mindfulness, the breath work, and then the goal setting, which was just out of, I had never done that kind of a goal setting workshop. It was just, oh, what do I want to achieve? No, no, no. I didn't know about feelings and all these alignment. Oh, Mary, you're doing such great work and you're really impacting the world. You impacting one person at a time, because I know you've impacted me.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm honored to know you. I'm honored to be connected with you, and it's important work, and I just feel so grateful to get to do it.
Thank you. So there you have it. I hope you found so much value in this episode as much as I did. And remember, like Mary said, we have so much choice and agency and control to change our lives. Until next time, take care. Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, please take time to review and rate it. It's the fastest and easiest way to say thank you for creating this content. Until next time, keep thriving. I cannot wait to see you next week. Take care now.